Welcome back to the Boost Your Boutique podcast. If you've ever dreamed of starting your own clothing brand or wondered how brands actually get these things made, this episode is going to blow your mind. In part 2 of my conversation with Tracy Christian of Sante Grace, we go deep into the step-by-step of manufacturing in Los Angeles. Tracy is so generously sharing names, locations, costs, tips, like hard-earned advice that she is not gatekeeping. It's actually so incredible. This episode is a true masterclass in how to manufacture from idea all the way through production. This is a true masterclass from someone who has done it and is still in it. Whether you're a boutique owner considering private label, a designer who's just getting started, or you're simply curious about what it takes to manufacture your own clothing line, grab a notebook. You are going to want to take notes on notes on notes. So let's get back into the conversation with Tracy Christian. The biggest opportunities I see across the board in retail and fashion right now is one, manufacturing your own things in Los Angeles, in New York, in I don't know where you can find it. I think sports, like women's sports, women's athletics, like
Huge,
my gosh, huge. There's so
huge.
much money there right now. So much money and so many opportunities to do sponsorships, ads, like deal, whatever.
We
And
have
then
the
I think
Olympics coming to our country, right? And I think F1 and something else. Now, all of this is centered in my mind because it's Los Angeles. But those events, like how many billions of dollars does the Olympics bring to a region? And
yeah,
then just in terms of our own government, if you have your government certifications, even if you don't, you literally can be manufacturing for the Olympics. Like
you're not
they
wrong.
do they do sponsorship deals with Nike and Adidas and of course places like that. But the people that are the secure people movers or whatever, they're not wearing a tracksuit from Nike. That is the Olympic Committee subcontracting you to manufacture 3,000 sweatsuits that say, blah, 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 Olympics.
Yeah. I even feel like there's opportunity with the NFL where, I mean, we
Yes.
see, we see the puffer jacket business getting bigger and they're slowly expanding that. I mean, that's incredible. I've seen even some local, like a knit hat company. There's a great knit hat company out of Boston called Shit That I Knit. And she did a deal. I feel like she got a license for the NFL. I think that's it because she was doing beanie hats with the names of the teams on them. And they were beautiful, hand knit in Peru or somewhere in South America. Beautiful, right? I think you are allowing people to like really expand the possibility for what's even about, like not even WNBA or like the soccer leagues. Why aren't we doing big Olympics? Like, let's go. And like maybe you even are from a country, you are an immigrant and you want to do it from where you came from to go back and say, hey, like this is a cool partnership. I think there's a lot to be said there for deciding that there's no sort of limit to like what you could do or where you could go. And I think that's where the difference between the mindset of manufacturing and buying is different. Like
Mm.
I come from the world of manufacturing. So when I came into the world of buying, like having a boutique, I was like, oh, this is so easy. Like, we don't have to make it ourselves. Like, oh my gosh, yeah, we just show up and like buy things. Okay. But obviously, the other way around of like, I like buying packs. I like going to a show and knowing what there is. Like, I don't feel like a designer. What do you think? Like, what would you say to that person where maybe they do have the money? They're doing 5, 6 figures a month, something like that, and they're not manufacturing on their own yet. What would you say their first steps sort of into this need to be? And like, how much do they really need to start with? Could it be one style? Like, what will a factory do?
So really a factory will do whatever you tell them to. My process, and I've done it really right, I've done it really wrong, and not to say that I'm some, Garmento who's been in this 25 years. I'm speaking from a place of like, imagine me being your manufacturing best friend who's kissed a lot of frogs, right? Okay, so the first thing is they need data, and data comes in the form of Emily. So No, when I tell
Yeah.
people that you changed my business in, 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, I'm not joking. It's
Mm,
not hyperbole.
thank
If
you.
you can have, that is the difference of privilege almost. If you can have somebody say, oh no, tilt your head this way, see the world that way. It makes all the difference. It changes everything. You don't
Hmm.
know that you're wearing sunglasses until somebody takes them off. And that's what you did for me. So the first thing is they should, if not with you, they've got to understand their data.
Yep.
Because without the data, you're wrong before you start.
Well,
You
you're going to end
lost.
up spending money on styles that aren't good or they're not based in what you're doing. Like, even if you've never
You,
sold a graphic tee and you're like, I'm going to do graphic tees, like, why though? Like you've never done that. Like, why wouldn't you
honey,
do what you
I
know
I
works?
use you to this day. I use you to this day. Okay? You were like a system of 10 commandments for me. I was I have, I will make a pattern. The kind of agreement I have with myself is I can make a pattern about any old fantasy. I'll treat myself that way.
I
I
love
will
that.
not put in production, certain things.
Yeah.
Okay. So I
Yep.
have all these patterns and an opportunity for production. And I wanted to do my suits right away and my baseball jacket and but I stopped and I thought of you and I thought, okay, tough economic client, possibly, for everyone. What are my core silhouettes? What are the three price points I need to hit that my customers feel comfortable with? And with that knowledge, I was like, okay, I'm downtown. I don't care how expensive the fabric is, but caftans. Caftans are my number one seller. Why I need some new caftan offerings. Maxi dresses, that's my next, right? So until I
Yep.
fill those buckets, baby girl, don't be looking at, doing that you have not earned the right to produce that baseball jacket or that suit yet. Sell all these maxi dresses and then you can experiment with another SKU. Okay, and that was what you gave me.
I was like, why don't you just do more of what's working? And you're like, but I really want to make a suit. And I was like, when did you sell suits? And you're like, well, not really. And I'm like, okay, so like, why would you spend money on this? Like, and I think the thing is, Tracy, is you and many other people listening to this are just really creative beings. And you're like moving 5 times the speed of someone else. And I mean, I've heard that like, neurodivergent people, not, in general, will process 42% more information than like a neurotypical person. So the fact that you're also just working ahead so much too, and you're creating many years ahead before you need it. So there's like also a benefit to you exploring your creativity and for whatever money it costs you to make that pattern or that sample, whatever that looks like. If you need the sample to see it and feel like actually like this, I don't think I can sell this right now. Great. You wear the sample, you wear it in, you make sure the product quality is great, you figure out what that pricing looks like, and it goes on the line sheet for in a year or two. And like you're okay with that. Like that's to me working smarter, not harder, is saying, I'm allowed to explore these things, but I need to be realistic about what's really driving the business. And I would say that we were talking about Facebook ads. Like I would say that even in marketing and media, like people are focusing on the wrong thing. Oh, should I do Pinterest? Should I be on Snapchat? Should pick one thing and be really good at it. You're really good at Instagram. You got Instagram down, you're running your Instagram ads, like you're going into that. That's so smart. It's the same idea. Take what works and make it better. So we
I
have the
really do. And
data.
you gave me that 110%. When I go and I'm with a jobber, my mind is always, even if I'm looking for a different project, there's the hypothalamus or whatever is like, where's that maxi dress fabric? Where's that blah, 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 blah. So I'm constantly turning out new merchandise that I know is going to work. It may not be, my favorite thing to do because I think as creative people, to your point, we are moving on, we're progressing, but it's what my audience wants. And what I have to remember is every day I'm being introduced to a new person,
That's right.
right? They don't know that that autumn queen dress has been carried for, 5 seasons. It's brand new to them.
Exactly. And it's one of your best selling styles. So you're probably going to sell it to them because you
Right.
know
And it's a
that
great
people
entry
coming into
point
your
for them.
ecosystem want that style. Yeah, I think people try to experiment too much with product assortment rather than marketing or rather than messaging or branding or things. Like they're like, "Oh, I need to change my product." It's like, "Well, maybe, but also maybe not. Like maybe you just are going to sell the same thing forever and ever." If I still had a store, I would be still selling my wrap sweatshirt, a hooded wrap sweatshirt. I sold it for $45. I would have done everything under the sun. I would have done custom prints by now. I would have done embroidery. I would have done fringe one, right? Like I would have milked that style as long as I could because that's what pays the bills too, right? Like, are you finding now too, as you focus on caftans and your top sellers, like you have a little more cash to play with on the back end because you aren't spending money on the new blazer that you think is so cool, but like maybe isn't going to sell?
That's partly what manufacturing offered for me as well. Like, one, I could control my quantities. So earlier I said your factory will do whatever you tell them to do.
Yes, yes.
So look, my goal is to make money, of course, but I don't really focus on money. I focus on systems. And when I focus on systems, the money is a result of following the system. So, I
Yes.
mean, for me, like if you want to lose weight, we all know if you just do calorie reduction, there's no way that you're not going to lose weight. But if you're focused on the number, that's amorphous. That's do I do this? Just okay, portion control or whatever. I've got to burn X numbers of calories each day. And I mean, it's just math. And you can math yourself to success, even if you're not a math person. You get
Yes.
together with someone like Emily, you establish what the formula is, and or the recipe, whatever you're comfortable calling it, because you can call this whatever makes you feel safe, the map,
Yep.
the recipe, the formula, the
Framework.
whatever,
Yep.
the
Yep.
framework. And then you just do that and the money comes. The money comes, the sanity comes. The math will even inform you. You can build a math equation or menu or a recipe that even informs you when you're allowed to get help
Yeah.
and what kind of help, right? So
Yep.
I lay in bed and I fantasize all the time about what if I was walking one day and I found $100,000? What would I do with that money first? What would happen? And it has often changed over the year. But what does happen in life is we'll always find $100,000, but we do get a credit card extension or, a tax something,
A
or
check from a rich auntie, like
yes, all of a
whatever.
sudden
Yeah.
that merchandise that you found in the shed sells. And instead of being like, oh my God, I've got this $10,000 and it's burning a hole in my pocket, I have a list, a curated list that I've been working on for 18 months that tells me exactly how to deploy that money. And then I don't have to be concerned about, oh, I had an opportunity and I did something stupid with it. Because there it is. There's the
Yeah.
layout.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about manufacturing. How do
Yeah.
we
So you
start?
said the word jobber. You like, I'm Emily. Nice to meet you, Tracy. I would like to manufacture in LA. How did you even get started? Where would you say I should go first or talk to first? Like, what's my first step? After
Okay.
data. I know I'm coming to LA. I
Okay,
know what I
yes.
need to make, but like, how am I physically going to get this product in my hand into my customers?
Easy peasy. Okay. So we start with the end, the beginning, all right? So the first thing that you need to know, if you already know what you want to manufacture, maybe I know a lot of your people use Judy Blue jeans, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a big,
Yep.
okay. So maybe you've decided I'm going to give Judy Blue a run for the money. So the first thing I would look at is, okay, these are the jeans I want to make. what's the price point? Again, what's the math? So once
Yep.
I know what price point I have to fall into, that's going to inform everything I do because we can make a pair of $10 jeans, and we can make a pair of $1,000 jeans. But let's plan
Mm.
that out. Let's not
Yep.
end up there. Okay. So,
Yep. So I want to
so
make a pair of $72 jeans at retail. When I go to sell it, I want them to be $72. So walk
and
me
what
back
are
from
your
there. How would
margins?
you work that out?
Okay, so $72. I would look at, do I wholesale also, or is this just for me?
Let's say I'm just gonna make it for my own boutique at
Okay,
first.
okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked her if we're wholesaling is because that affects like what our COGS are going to be, right? And what our
Yeah,
markup
meaning
is going to be.
yeah, so like if you are going to wholesale it, then you become the middleman instead of you're the producer and the middleman. So you have to build in margin for yourself, build in margin for the wholesale cost. So on a $72 piece, let's just do the math here, just to do it for people, because I think that's important. So I'm going to whip out my calculator here. So 72 times 0.7. So we need to pay like 22-ish dollars. 22-ish dollars, and that's what I would say $25 at wholesale is what I want to charge. And for me, I want to make those jeans for like 12 bucks.
Dollars, yeah. I was going to say like between 10 and $15, no more.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, like 12 bucks. Yeah. Yep. So that's my cost, and that's the materials, labor, any kind of fees.
Packaging, everything,
There you go. Okay. So for
everything.
$12 a piece, that's what we're going to work on.
So once we know that, once we've done that simple math, and I bet you Emily has like a calculator
Of
on the
course I do.
website. There was a show called The Profit. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, I love that show. I wanted to go on his other show, Marcus Lemonis, because he did one with like entrepreneur, but you had to like work at his store. And I was like the end goal was like I think you got to work with him, which is fine. But like I was like, I don't
Oh.
want it. I have my own business. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't need to make Marcus Lemonis it richer by working for it. But anyway, the reason I say it is if you go online and you search The Profit, there's a calculator that he has
Yes, he has one. Yeah.
that like I never fail to have it up when I'm in the garment district, and it does all of that math for you. So you can literally just say to yourself like the jeans are retailing at $72. How much will that cost me? It figures all of this stuff out for you. Okay, so now that I know that I where I have to land is $12, like between 10 to $15, that's everything. So the first thing that we need is a pattern. What do the jeans look like? And if you can walk into your pattern maker and you're telling her all this fancy stuff that you want on your jeans and the fit and the sizing, also tell her, and I have to produce these jeans for no more than $10. Now, why are you telling the pattern maker that, right? Because she's going to say, all right, the most expensive thing on this pair of jeans is the zipper, right? So maybe instead of a YKK zipper, we're going to use a cheaper zipper, or she's going to figure out or help you figure out what you can add and subtract so that the jeans, your consumer, feels like I got a good deal paying $72 for these jeans, but also you can hit your number.
Yep. So you're gonna go to a pattern maker, and how am I gonna find this pattern maker?
So, you would think that in today's technology, you could just go like patternmakers.com and there would
Yeah.
be like a directory that comes up. But this is an industry that is very much gatekept in who you know, and you got to open your mouth and you got to expand your network. If you use things like ChatGPT, a lot of times you can ask questions like, what made Citizens of Mankind jeans special? Who were the people behind? And reverse engineer and actually find out the factories and the pattern makers, the people who were behind some of these things. But really, it's a war of attrition. It's getting on the telephone and sending out a lot of emails and a lot of compliments and saying to people like me, hey, Trace, I love your line. Oh my gosh. And I'm starting my own that's not competitive with yours. Can you recommend some pattern makers? And the first time you do it, people are going to be a little standoffish because we hear from people all the time that you want to get into such and such and such. People hardly ever do it. But once you stick around, people are very, very, very helpful and will bend over backwards. And it's of their self-interest that they're doing it because we want people just like us in the marketplace. We want people who are good business people, obsessive. I want to add those people, not discourage them. So they will help you. So I always feel like the best way to find folks is by recommendation. If you go to the University of YouTube, there are all mostly in the streetwear space and in the wedding space. There are all of these young men, and they're all under 30 or 35 who have started their own clothing lines. Who knew men were so into clothes? But they have now, men are linear thinkers, they have huge lists, worldwide lists of factories and pattern makers and opinions, and all of that information is on YouTube and it's for free. Some people might charge you $19.95 to download a list, but it's usually
Sure.
like 100 pattern makers across the world. And then what you do is you look for like who's an expert in the thing that I want to do. And then you
Yeah.
get on the telephone with that person. Force yourself on that person because you got to be able to communicate with them, right? Now, the interesting thing about pattern makers and all of these people that we're going to talk about, instantly you're a global company. You can be operating out of Seattle, Washington, and maybe you're going to produce your clothes out of Seattle, Washington. You're going to find that all of a sudden you understand a bunch of accents because your pattern maker is from Syria and your grader cutter is Mexican, and the people that are sewing your clothes, right? All of
Yeah.
that. Nobody does this alone. But
Yep.
YouTube is a great place to start. Like if you just type in production pattern making, you'll even
Mm.
find pattern makers online, kind of advertising themselves. Here's
Yep.
what I do. And I follow so many of these guys who manufacture sportswear, and they literally are going around the world. You see him in Guangzhou, China, and he's talking to other the vendors there, then in LA, Portugal, all of these different places that have manufacturing. So anyway, or you can go to Fiverr, and Fiverr has 100,000 pattern makers from all over the world. Some people even have patterns that they've already made. And if that just takes a little bit of nuance, a little bit of tweaking, the other thing that you can do is, the butterwick patterns that our moms or grandmothers used to buy, those are not production patterns. But when you are learning the language of production, they're not a bad place to start. You can take that pattern and that little sketch that's on the front, and that way you can, when you're talking to somebody in production, you can say, I want it to look exactly like this, but you see this part here, I want it to flare out.
Yep.
Everybody understands that. So you don't even
Yep.
have to sketch. So you can either find
Right.
all of this stuff on Fiverr or Upworks or YouTube.
I would
If you know,
even argue, Tracy, and we used to do this a lot when I worked for retailers manufacturing, we would send samples of other people's things and
all the
say,
time.
change the length of the sleeve, make it more oversized, add a trimming here. And that was totally fine. Like you could go to Zara, buy a pair of pants, make some modifications, send them to the factory, and they'll figure it out.
That's why I said the factory's going to do whatever you tell them to do.
Yep.
Submit I try to have like a little fancy pants brand, and go
Good.
to vintage stores and you can buy that Halston dress, that Vivian Westwood piece, that whatever, this garment that's really finely tailored and handmade, and go to a pattern maker and say, recreate this, but here's the price points that we have to hit and blah, 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 blah. So lots of ways to get the pattern. And usually the pattern maker will have something called a sample maker in their office too. So the idea is you don't know how to read a pattern. You can't tell if what they have drawn out is really what you want. But if they have a sample maker, they complete the pattern based on your notes, right? And then they will have a sample made. So you have given them your size run, the sizes that you want your line to carry. Now I would encourage you to find three women who all call themselves whatever your sample size is going to be, right? And have these three women try on the sample. Because as we know, a size 8, a size 6, a size 10, 12, whatever, those bodies can look drastically different. And if you're going to have a successful clothing line, when you call something a size 12, you want everybody who's a size 12 to look good in it.
Yep. And you want the next time they buy something from you in size 12 to for it to fit also. Like the
For it to be
consistency as you
consistent.
start to manufacture, I think becomes really important as well. So also deciding those three friends or those three like fit models, those are going to be your people for like a year or two. You've got to stick with them. You'll hear people say, "Oh, I think this company changed their fit model," meaning the clothes started to fit differently because what will happen is at like you said, in most companies after you get your first samples, you fit it on a person and you make adjustments on the body because it needs to eventually fit on a body. So we're transforming flat pieces of paper into this 3D garment.
Three-dimensional.
And
Yep.
I think for you, so the sample maker, that's what we're talking about is this sample. Like you said, it's a size 12. Get three women who say, I'm a size 12, have them try it on. And then you're going to make maybe one more adjustment, two more adjustments. I mean, how much are you working with the pattern maker and the sample maker to get it right? Is that a lot of back and forth or is just depend on the garment?
I am in there and irritating Janet so that she hates me. She really does love me, but because part of what I'm doing when I work with the sample maker and the pattern maker, I feel like it's free school. I've made my own clothes before. I know how to sew a little bit. I've been to Parsons, but I'm not the person who's, like sitting there putting the pieces together. And the better I can learn to speak her language, the faster we can operate and
There
the
you
better
go.
of a designer I am, right? I'm not just thinking, oh, this dress popped in my head and it's pretty. I'm thinking about how does the person put the dress on? Because when we see a dress in a magazine or even our head isn't thinking about, oh, I gotta wait, I gotta make sure we get a lightweight zipper because this is gonna be Georgette. Can I find those zippers? Or, okay, maybe not even, oh, I'm sewing zipper on Georgette. That's dangerous. Maybe I got to design this where you just put it over your head. And if it just goes over your head, I don't want her to have like a big gaping, right?
I mean, I've dabbled in making clothes. I would never say that I am any sort of serious garment maker, but like I've made bridesmaid dresses for
Mm.
weddings because I couldn't find the color I needed and things like that. And I'm going to be honest, those were not well constructed. I was taking them apart, I was putting them back together because it doesn't fit. If you don't do it right, it literally won't fit your body. And so especially if you're not, let's, go back to the denim, unless it has serious stretch in it, you have to get that pattern right for it to fit on the body
No room
the
for
way you
error.
want it to.
No room for error.
Yeah.
So the other thing the point that I skipped was because I've already got a sample made and we're moving things to sample. So when you are going to your pattern maker too, at that time I would identify my fabric,
Right.
my
Right.
textile. And you might need some guidance there. I would say when you're starting, keep it simple. Okay. Don't try to make, don't try to recreate this, Christian Lacroix wedding dress and you don't have any textile knowledge. Keep it simple. So, most denim nowadays, as you mentioned, has a touch of spandex, usually like 2 to 3%. Why? Because it's going to fit better.
It'll fit more bodies better.
It'll fit more bodies. And you're not going to source your denim at Joann's. That's for
Well,
home.
Joann's is gone now, Tracy, remember? So
Oh,
we have nothing, nowhere to buy fabric except maybe at Michael's or online.
wow.
Isn't that
Okay, so
crazy?
I'm in Los Angeles and we have a whole garment district. So you
You
can
don't need
literally,
Joann's.
yeah, you just like, you can walk around and, there's places that all they do is sell cotton or denim and, what have you. So you
So
can
you would
sort.
walk around and go to those places and get some cut samples, get some pricing, get some yardage of what's
Yep.
available. I mean, a lot of this
Most,
is really research too, I feel like is what you're saying.
yeah.
It's a lot of
Now,
research first.
what a lot of fabric manufacturers, and they are textile mills, have done is try to, move into the 21st century. And there's like a company, I think it's called Ken-Doe, and you can go online and get request samples, and they'll send you like a yard, 1 yard or something, or 1 meter sample. I encourage you, like, however you want your jean to fit, go out into the marketplace, find someone who has jeans that are using a denim that you think you like, look at it. Oh, this actually is, 30% cotton, 40% polyester, and then spandex. Oh, I didn't realize that, right? So you'll find the denim that you like, and then, as Emily was saying, do the research. Just go into ChatGPT, go to actually, and these guys that I talked about online, they also have listings of, fabric houses, but ask, ask people.
Go in the comments. The comment section of YouTube can sometimes be so helpful. I think that's why people like TikTok too. It's the comment section, it's the community that somehow gets built underneath of people that like want to help each other. I think that's where you're saying too, like there are people that want to help you, but you do have to search a little bit for them, and you do have to also, I think what you said about being serious is true. I think there's a lot of people that are like, I'm going to make my own stuff, and they don't totally see how much work that's going to take, frankly. And, so some of these things you do have to just do the research and get in the weeds a little bit, get on the phone, call people. Like someone doesn't email you back. Okay, you pick up the phone. Like that, there's so much to be said for what you just said of like, it's a little bit of pounding the pavement. Like, I don't think that AI technology quite gets us around some of these things, when it's an old school craft. Like this is what
It's
you're
going to be
talking
some
about.
75-year-old guy whose family has been in the denim business for 3 generations, and he barely knows how to email and doesn't want to be on the telephone with you because he can tell right away you're brand new, and he's not trying to teach you the denim business. That's where they're coming from. They want to deal with the 50 vendors that they've been dealing with for the last 30 years and bitch and complain about the state of the business.
Yeah.
But that's, they want to make money, right? And then go
Yeah.
home
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
their
Yeah, of
loved
course.
ones. So you do the research, figure out the kind of fabric that you want. And that's easy to do, like a trip to the mall will inform you exactly the denim that you want. And then if you start doing Google and ChatGPT and really University of YouTube commenting to these people, they'll have, not only will they have big opinions about your fabric selection, they can tell you, oh, there's the name of the company in downtown LA is called Premium Denim. They have such as da, and if they don't have that denim, they will give you some mills that can actually weave that for you. I recommend, like here in Los Angeles, we have a place called Rag Finders that's a huge jobber, and they are a little bit of everything. The only thing with Rag Finders is you can buy it. There they have a 20-yard minimum. You can buy it, but they may never have it again because they're buying ends of fabrics.
Yeah, so let's talk about what a jobber is, because I think it's a pretty old school term that I don't think gets used a lot unless you're really deep in the garment district somewhere. But essentially, a jobber is someone who buys and sells leftovers, essentially like the TJ Maxx of fabric, essentially. And so
Perfect.
it's a great place to find unique, limited edition, dead stock, things that, especially if you're wanting to say, like, we're sustainable or we are, using materials that have already existed, we're kind of cleaning up the waste, that's a great angle to have. So, rag finders. So, that's just a store you can walk into. You have to buy 20 yards minimum of something. But I could come there next week and buy 20 yards of a silk jersey that I love and make some pants out of it.
Right. And sometimes, like if they have less than 20 yards, you just buy whatever's on the roll. But
Yeah.
if you go to Rag Finders, you'll find that like Rick Owens started there. There's so many prominent designers and they've got pictures of the people, right? It's not, and people are still there. Lily Pulitzer, like there's still brands that are utilizing rag finders because the prices are unbelievable. The quality of the like they know fabric. They know fabric better than you do.
Yep.
And if you're like, oh, I'm looking for denim, and they're like, okay, what's the weight? Oh, I don't know the weight. Okay, do you want just 100% cotton? Do you want it? Right? They are now starting to add, to educate you. And, one of the guys there will be like, okay, so this isn't pre-shrunken because it's cotton, right? This is blah,
Yep.
blah, blah. This is actually cotton and silk, and you'll figure out, okay, great. Here is where I want to be. Here's what the price point is. There's a little bit of negotiating, not so much negotiating. Like in the fabric district, when you go, there are no prices anywhere. That's true of rag finders too. But unlike other people, they're really not trying to take advantage of you, and the prices are pretty consistent.
And when there's no prices on anything, just for someone who's never been to a place that has, I experienced this when we lived in Guatemala. It's negotiation. It's you say, what's the price on this? They say X, and you say, well, I'd like to pay a little less than that, and you go back and forth.
And what I do that drives them a little crazy is I am a note taker. So when I go in and I'm doing my samples, and look, now people know me, but when I started, I would go in and I would negotiate with them like my life depended on it, and I would get a price and how much they had in stock. Is this a line item? A line item means, do they have this all the time? Can they get this easily? Or, did it fall off a truck? And lots of times it's the garment district. Things are falling off a truck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I would get a price and then I'd mark down the price and the yardage and who I dealt with and all of that. And I may not come back and buy this fabric for another 6 months. But when I come back and I say, oh, hey, Giorgio, I want to buy 200 yards of this. I've got the sample, so we all know exactly what I'm talking about. And he's like, okay, great, Tracy, $10 a yard. No, 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 it's not $10 a yard. On such and such date, you quoted me this amount. Well, the price has changed. No, the price has not changed, right? But we have a place to start from. And I will
Yes.
tell you something about things that are typed or written. People believe what's in black and white. When I write this down, he's not thinking to himself, oh, she wrote down a different price. He knows the price I wrote down is the price we actually agreed upon that date. So
Yep.
now she's looking for that price or lower.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Because
if
it's
he
been six
sees
months and that's been still sitting here. You still have it. So I'll
that's
take it
my
off your hands.
that is my huge negotiating tactic. I'm like, look, this was July of last year, and you still have 5 bolts of this fabric left. Actually, you should be giving me a discount.
This should be 50% off, honestly, because I'm doing
Yes,
you a
that's
favor.
where I start.
Yeah.
And if people see that you've got cash in hand or you've got your credit card out, it's very motivating. Anyway, so we're going off on a tangent. You get your sample fabric, whatever your sample yardage is, and I normally get twice, sometimes three, what I think I'm going to need from the pattern. When you get a pattern, also on the pattern, it'll say how many pieces the pattern is, how many yards this particular pattern yields, right? So to make your jeans, if the fabric is 55 inches, right, and cotton is usually like a 60-inch wide bolt, you need 2.5 yards or 2 yards to make these jeans. That also, in my head, I'm playing with those numbers. So if I know my jeans take 2 yards, I can start doing what are called your COGS, your cost of goods, right? And know where I'm coming in. I can't buy fabric that's $10 a yard if I need 2 yards of it, because
No,
automatically
you're
the
working
jeans
on
are
like $2, $3 a yard, maybe.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Maybe $3. Like you're cutting it close. But yeah, I
We're
mean,
cut,
$2 a yard, 2 yards, you're at $4 right there. And you haven't
and
even
that's
gotten
before
the
anybody
thread or
is
the
sewing it.
right,
Yep.
right,
That's before
right.
it's been graded. That's before it's been packaged. So it
Yeah.
allows you to play with the numbers, which is my favorite point, my favorite part.
And if you're doing something with hardware or embellishments, zippers, studs, if we're talking about denim through this whole, explanation. And I think like that's a great piece because you do need grommets and buttons and thread. There is a bunch of stuff elsewhere. And you're going to source all that too, or will the factory help you source some of that once you
So
get to
there are
them?
factories, like there's a guy out here named Fashion Frankie,
Okay.
and he's like a hub, right? So you can walk in and you don't have any sketches and you just say like, I want to make jeans. And he'll take you through all the necessary questions and he'll ask you about costs. And then he'll source all the materials for you. And you can just, come in, zip that zipper, not this zipper, metal, not nickel. I mean, brass, not nickel, this, all of these things, but it's going to cost you. And I'm giving you the brass tacks, but okay, you get your fabric, your pattern maker may or may not help you source all of the trims and those things like zippers or whatever, even though they're not a trim, they're called trims. Notions, you used to call them when you're a home sewer, because you're a pattern maker and her sample maker, they're seeing everybody's clothes, so they know where to get everything a lot of times. Yeah, so usually like with my pattern maker, unless it's something special, I can just come to her with fabric. And what I keep at her atelier is I use basically the same buttons on everything, just different sizes. My labels are all there. I use a certain kind of zipper. I leave all of that with her so that when she's making a sample, it's a real shootable sample. And I can see, oh, the neck label is too heavy for this garment, right? I got to get a different neck label. It's dragging the thing down or whatever. All of those things that you would never think of, you want to, be able to test drive with your garment. So she'll help you get all of the accoutrement for your garment, and then she can produce a sample. Once you have your sample, you're fitting it on a body, seeing what it really looks like. Do not be afraid to be vocal. That garment needs to look like exactly what you had in your mind. Ask every question. Why is there a gap in the hook underneath the person's belly? Why is it the butt baggy? The pockets, do they sit too high? And a lot of things I think will happen where you look at the garment and you don't like it, but you don't know why. You don't know
Mm.
what needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so don't be afraid to ask her. Don't be afraid to say that, like, I know you did it, and say, I know you did everything I asked. Why don't I like this? Why does it look weird?
I
And lots
love
of times
that.
your pattern maker is going to say, because people have two pockets on their jeans, not one. So it looks weird or whatever. But she's going to be able to help steer you in the direction of what you want. And so together, you guys perfect the pattern.
Well, because here's what I'll say to that is that they know the standards. They know what's standard practice. They see something become a piece of paper and then become a viral sensation. Like they've seen it all. And so leveraging their knowledge and also, like you said, being humble and saying, like, I know, like I told you to make this. Like, and what's your opinion on it? What advice would you give me on this? I had a friend who was a tailor and she only did, oh, she was a seamstress, I should say. She was a seamstress, a very formal seamstress, like went to school for this. She did mostly bridal. And she was very vocal in people's bustles, what they were choosing to do with this. And honestly, thank God, because no one's gotten married before, theoretically, right? I mean, this is like your first time doing it. And she's the one that is able to say, oh, maybe, when you're dancing later, what if this came off? Or what if we adjusted the dress like this? Like she's so knowledgeable. And it just reminds me of that same relationship of this person has put in the reps to be so good at this. You're still new. So work with them together. Also, you're paying them for this. I mean, like you're paying them for the sample, you're paying them for their expertise, like leverage that. And I think a lot of people that want to get into designing and manufacturing feel a mix of like, I know what I like and I know what I want and I know what I'm doing. but also the like fear of not really knowing how to navigate it. And I think it's very much to me like art school. It's like you're going to go, you're going to learn, but you're also going to get critiqued. And those critiques are to help you learn. It's constructive criticism. It's like you said, you're going to kiss a lot of frogs, you're going to make mistakes, but that's the work to do because you're not going to get the reps unless you go and try and unless you go learn and unless you
You learn more from your mistakes than your success stories.
100%. And that's like, to me, I'm experiencing this with like even people who want to start course businesses and, you know, sell courses and sell consulting. And I'll say to them, this is exactly how you should do it. I've been doing this 10, 12 years now. This is where the state of the industry is at. I would just do boom, boom, boom to stop that other stuff. Sometimes they listen to me. Wait, so we're in the middle of talking about your pattern maker, your sample maker. I feel like that's the biggest part of it, honestly.
Yeah, I like when you think of a couturier, when you watch those documentaries about Chanel or whatever, the people that you see in-house, the pattern maker and the sample maker,
Right.
because those people get to understand what your body looks like what's the silhouette of your company. When you say a size such and such, or you say blouson, what do you mean about it? Not
Yeah.
what's the definition. What does it mean for your house?
Yeah.
So,
The pattern maker and the sample maker are really interpreting your vision, whether it comes from your brain, whether it's on paper, whether it's from a sample that you're like, hey, I love this style and make the legs longer. That's really what they're doing because if you can get that right and you can get the grading right, meaning like, what is the small fit? What is the medium fit? What is the 3XL fit? What is the 5XL fit? If you can get that grading right and get those patterns made. So we need a pattern for every size. Am I correct?
so there's something called grading, right? So you don't need a standalone pattern for every size.
Okay.
But once you have your sample made and it's perfect. You're ready to go to production. You're going to do the math of, okay, if I use these rivets and this and that, and blah, 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 and this fabric, where am I at? And hopefully if we've got to do 12, if we've got to hit, no more than $12, $15, hopefully you hit maybe $5, $5 in the supply cost
That's
or
your
less.
materials cost. Yep.
Yes, your
Yep.
materials cost. Because the next thing that happens is you are going to go to a grading person, and that person is probably a cutter too. And what they're going to do is take that pattern and create a size range from it. So whatever your sample size is, like let's say, because most people aren't going to be plus size, let's say your sample size for your line is a size 4. You might decide that you're going to carry from size 2 to size 12. And so that grader has to make a version of that pattern for every single size so that the cutter, he just places, and the cutter gets a map from the pattern maker. And sometimes the pattern makers do grading also that shows them how to lay the pattern pieces on the fabric.
On that 2 yards that they said, here, you're going to have
Yes.
to take 2 yards. Here's how to lay each piece of it on that 2 yards so it
So
perfectly
that
fits.
you get maximum return on your fabric. And it's gonna be crazy. And it again depends on the cutter. Do you have a cutter that's doing things by laser or by electronic scissor, or they cutting, it's a fine fabric and they're cutting with actual scissors, but they are not, it's again, commercial pattern versus, production pattern. They are not allowing any space between the pattern pieces, and they're cutting on a table. I think the table is 48 inches long typically, or 60, I don't know. But they're doing it a different way than we would do it in our house. They're going to cut up those pieces, and once they have the pieces, they're stacking them on top of one another and tying them off. Then you probably have to take your pattern pieces to your sewers, to the factory. Now, of course, you're going to negotiate this all ahead of time. So find out whether you're able to have your pattern graded by your pattern maker or by your cutting service. I use my pattern maker because nobody's closer to garment to me than my pattern maker. And she knows my body. And when I say my body, the body for my company, that, we're not big here, but we're big on the hips. Because bodies, when you get bigger, like a size 4 is not double a size 2.
Right. That's right.
Right?
That's
A
right.
size 6 is not double a size 12. It
Right.
might only be an inch bigger in some places, or a half an inch bigger, or what have you. But there are industry standards that they know. Now, if this is your first time at the races, I encourage you to, once that pattern has been graded, make another sample.
In a different size?
In a different size.
Okay. So my first sample is a size 4. Maybe I'm going to go ahead and make that 10 or 12 now to get the other size of the range. Yep.
Exactly. Right. You want to make sure that any notes, number one, that you made on the first pattern have been recorded. And now that they show up in this second sample. That's number one. And number two, that the sample fits.
Right.
Now, in
because
fast
the thing that we are all assuming that everyone's working in good faith, that the cutter is doing exactly what the pattern maker has laid out for them. And at the same time, mistakes happen because we're human. So correct, try on every sample and try, like, move in it, wash it, like, do things with it so that that when that person, because again, I think we're like obsessing over this first part of it for good reason, because product design and development is a core, like most of what's happening. Once something's at manufacturing, the work's kind of done, to be honest, right? This is the work that ends up getting done when you are designing and manufacturing your own pieces, is the materials, the fit, the grading, the working with all these expert people to get that correct, because we've all had something that we've bought that doesn't fit right, and then it doesn't sell. And so if the fit is not right, don't make 100 of them, because
How
that
about
just
this?
amplifies your problems.
The worst thing is you sell it and it comes back. Okay.
Yep.
That is like a vampire's at your door. Okay. That is the worst feeling in the universe, because they're telling you, oh, yeah, it looked good, but it's crap. And that's why I'm returning it. And when you have somebody's money in your hot little production mitts and you got to give it back, what feels worse? And hopefully
Right.
they're not leaving negative feedback, all of that. And we've all experienced that, right? You bought a shirt. Emily's wearing a chambray shirt right now. It's oversized. It's supposed to be oversized. You put that shirt on. Why are the arms this big? Or the armholes start here, and you're like uncomfortable and you don't know why. All you know is that this thing doesn't fit the way it's supposed to. So you put it back in that poly mailer and you send it back to where we bought it from. That's the worst.
Well, I think here's the other thing I would say is, once you're also making the sample in your own materials, in your own like fabric, you also might find that it's not the right fabric, or that the pattern lays weird. Like, I've seen samples where, like, a pair of shorts, it has a huge, like, it had the huge novelty image that we were using on everything else. It was like an all over print. It was like right in the crotch. So the model put it on, and I'm like, that we can't have that thing right at the, like, we gotta adjust where the pattern lays on the fabric so that it's cutting the right, or knitting the right, whatever it was, knitting it correctly, because that is a huge problem. Like, thank God we didn't put that into production, because we've used the material before, So it's interesting, because I think a lot can happen in the sample rounds where, you're perfecting this, you're making this something that you're so proud of and that you really feel strongly is going to sell well.
And the other thing is, do all of this craziness because you won't ever have to do it again. Well, you're going to do it again, but you won't have to do it again, right?
No,
So
only if you
when
like
you are
change the
learning,
fabrication a lot, right? Like, I mean, if you are always using a woven fabric on this pattern and the content is pretty close, you're usually okay. But if you do change from a woven to a knit or something, you're really changing the material a lot, you might have to get it resampled, but you're not going to, like, agreed, you're not going to go through all this every single time.
no. I call it, like, when you get a new job, that first time you go to the office, you're using MapQuest to figure out how to get there fastest, with this, blah, 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 and it's really complicated and it's a pain in the behind. After a week, you're on the phone drinking coffee, steering with one hand, correct? And that's the
Yeah.
same as this operation. I know it's sounding very complicated and we're going back and forth. Do it this way first. You will not waste your money. And you'll see by the time you're doing your second and third design, your pattern maker knows your body, your sample maker knows how you like things and can run things up, the factory. Everybody has been set on the proper course. They also know or suspect that you might know a little bit about what you're doing and they're going to treat you different. And they appreciate that you've done the research, that they don't have to. The other thing too is what I learned is our culture, our Western culture, we ask questions, right? That's very normal for Americans. Do you know where I can find this restaurant? Do you know where I can park? Can I sit here? Blah, blah, blah. We feel very empowered to ask questions. Lots of other cultures do not. So unless you open that dialogue, they're going to do exactly what you put in front of them. And you're going to say, well, wait, you can see that the pocket was upside down. Why didn't you? Blah, blah, blah. And they're going to say, no, speak English. It was on the pattern. And they'll
It's
be
on the
right
pattern.
because that was their obligation. If it was on the pattern, I'm doing it the way the pattern says it.
Yes.
Okay. So anyway, so if you have a different size range, go substantially up and let's make sure that the pattern is representative of the body and that it fits appropriately. If it does, we're off to the races. If not, let's do some nip tucks. And we caught a potentially very expensive problem.
There you go. There you go. So now I have my second sample. I have my pattern. I have the pattern graded. I have my materials. I have all of that. I'm now going to go into production.
Right. So ahead of time, you have found a factory who will, manufacture a small order, a minimum order. So usually factories back in the old days, their minimums were like 3,000 to 5,000 units. They did not want to hear from you unless you were talking about the thousands. That has changed with a lot of places, and they will do 300 to 500 is what they really want to hear. But for all of us, we're probably manufacturing at the 100 to 300 range. And that's a fair start. Here in Los Angeles, if you can get an industry recommendation, you might even find people who are willing to do 30 to 50, depending on what your item is.
I've seen it. I've seen it. And when we say 30 to 50 or 100 to 300, we're saying this is one style in one color usually
Yep.
and across multiple sizes. So you are in that 100, it's not 100 smalls. They're able to take that 100 and make small, medium, large, extra, or 2X, 3X, whatever you want. So there is some longevity in that. And I think, someone who is making 5 figures a month, 6 figures a month in their boutique business, it's a no-brainer to start making this stuff yourself because
Oh, you on your cut ticket, you can outline, like, again, if you've done the research with someone, you have the data with someone like Emily, okay, my average customer is a medium or they're a size 8 or whatever it is. So on my cut ticket, which is telling the cutter, how many of each size to cut, you can program that. Like when you buy a pack, you get whatever the manufacturer puts in the pack. There's a reason why they give you so many smalls. Cost less for them to produce. And you're going to end up with extra smalls because most Americans are not a small. We are a medium or a large or an extra large, right? And how many larges do they give you? 1 or 2? So you got to buy more packs so you get enough larges and mediums to feed your clients. But we're not operating with packs here. So
no, but I think it's huge because you do end up eliminating a lot of waste and markdowns when you're buying your sizes correctly as how you sell them, not just in the way that you've been forced to kind of sell them. Like there is a little bit of that, which came first, the chicken or the egg with this, where it's like, do I sell a lot of 222 because that's what I buy, or it's like, do I sell a lot of larges because I buy 123, something like that. But I agree with you. I think I highly suggest people manufacture when they have funny size breaks. And like, even I think so many people just need medium to 2XL. Like that's the
that's
big
what I was
chunk
going to
of where
say.
people are buying right now across the board.
Some of the manufacturers, like girls that I know that are friends and I'm helping them with their manufacturing, I say, if you have a hard time selling smalls, don't even cut them. Just cut,
Why?
yeah, okay, let's cut 5 because your influencers might be a
Sure.
small or you want to give them away. Cut 5. And then they might be cutting like 25 mediums and 25 larges. You can arrange your cut ticket however you like. These people are going to do whatever you tell them to do.
I love that
And
you keep saying that. They're going to do whatever you want them to do. They really
they
are. I mean,
they
that's the big
are.
thing. They're going to charge you for it. So like, let's talk about like, I if I get the pass to make 30 or 50 or 100 to 30, 100 to 300, I'm going to probably pay a little bit more than the person that is ordering that 3,000 to 5,000.
Yes, absolutely. Because that's how they make their money, right? It's an efficiency in volume.
Of
So
course. Yes.
what their fantasy is that you come in and you order $100,000, 100,000 units of one thing, and their sewers never have to change the fabric on them. I mean, change the thread on the machine or anything. They could just sit there and, sew all day. They don't have to change out anything. That's not reality. And that's how they are able to sew the fastest. If you understand how factories work, you can make a great deal. So when I have like the same 5 factories that I use, and my relationship with my factories are based on their technical ability, their speed, their price. So I'm going to the factory that does, whatever the garment that I'm producing, they do that thing the best and they are cost efficient. But I'll go to them and I'll say, okay, I am 6 months out on these jeans and I want to do 100 unit run, right? Mindy's going to say, oh, Tracy. And I'll say, but here's the thing. You can bump me. If somebody else comes in, go ahead. I get it. Okay. Now, what
Here's
does
the
that
date
say
I
to
need it
Pat?
for. Yeah, I need it
Yep.
in 5 months. You tell me,
Yep.
you
That
decide
says
when
a
you want
bigger
it done.
order, something more lucrative comes in. You can take me from your schedule and move me down. No problem. She's like, great, because every designer wants their stuff yesterday.
Of
Everybody
course.
say, right?
Yes.
So I'm giving, we have a
You're
little bit
playing
of
this
give and
so
take.
smart.
We're doing a bit of give and take here, right? And the more time you can give them, the more they normally appreciate it. And if you don't know factories, say, what can I do to I know you're not making a lot on this job. What can I do that would make it easier for you?
There you go. There you go.
And they'll tell you. They might
That's
say,
relationship. Yeah, that's also the you building that relationship with them. And, I think a lot of people feel like there is a barrier between, us and the manufacturers or us and vendors. But you're
like
supposed to
they'll
work with
say, we
your
want you to do
vendors
your
and get what you need.
they might say, you know what, I just started a packaging arm. Can you do the packaging here? Sure. Absolutely.
Love it.
Right? Or can we, whatever it is, find out the thing that's important to them and give them that. Since we're only doing 100 units, can you pay all up front? I would say to you, don't pay all up front with anybody unless
Yeah.
you have a long-standing relationship with them. But it might be something like that. It might be, can you pay cash instead of
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
can you, whatever it is, but you
Yeah.
guys kind of play with that relationship and tell them, let them know as you're doing this negotiation, they're going to quote you the most outrageous fee to sew this garment. They're going to say, okay, so these jeans, I can fit you in next week and I'll charge you $10 per unit. You're like, $10 a unit. Now, $10 a unit, you can swing that. If they quoted $10 a unit, go down. You're like, hey, I really have to hit, XYZ per unit. That's over. I want to start a relationship with you. You got to do a little bit of negotiation. But do not say yes until you get the price that you can actually live with. Because there's going to be problems, period. So if you have no margin for error, you are screwing yourself. You have failed before you have started.
I mean, I think it's like every house repair or home
Yes.
repair, they say, or renovation, right? It's
Yes.
like we've all watched the renovation shows. It's like, well, we're gonna need another 10K, and you're like, oh my gosh, like you're right. I think building in margin for error is such a good place to give yourself the ability to say, you know what, like, what do I need? And I think that's like, I think we all can be better negotiators by prioritizing what we need rather than like people pleasing the factory. I think like, the factory is they know you're green. You're going to give you a nice, like dumb upcharge, like newbie upcharge, right?
Yes.
And I think it's important to say, like, listen, you're right. Like, what can we do to make this better? Where can I, could you push me out? Could you, whatever? That factory, in terms of timing, and let's say like you did want something in the next 2 or 3 months, that usually is achievable. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again,
Yeah.
you have to pay for it. But like for you, if you were working, like right now you're working pretty far out. But when you first got started, like how long was this process taking you between samples and pattern makers and fabric stores? Like, did you get up and going pretty quickly or did it
Very
take you
quickly, a month
longer?
or less. It was
A
taking
month
a
or
month or
less.
less. Well, because I didn't have a production manager. Tracy was the production manager. And
Okay.
Tracy had like images from Vogue magazine. And then I'd go to the pattern maker and I'd be like, okay, I want this, but in a size, 16. And I spoke a little bit of her language, but not a lot of her language, right? And but it was all pretty easy. So she could turn that pattern around in 36 hours. And I had the fabric in the trunk of my car. So, the sample maker, and I didn't have a fit model. I didn't do that. That was a mistake I made. But the sample maker, boom, we have the sample. And okay, I like this. Then I took my sample and I went to like 3 different factories that I'd heard great things about. And I said, hey, I want to make this. How much would you charge me to make 100 of them? And I got all of the prices. How long will it take? Okay. And then I did my negotiations and I picked, a company. They took longer than they promised, as they all do. It took longer than they promised. And then I had my production. I then had to get stuff packaged. I didn't even know about packaging. I'd totally forgotten about labels. Like none of my stuff, my first run had no care labels in it. All it had was I just wanted to see that Sante Grace neck label. So I had to get care labels made and yeah, for the next run. But I went to Staples and I made a little postcard that I put in the bag that said, here's how you care for this garment. Here's the fabric, da 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 da. So I couldn't sell it to stores, but I felt a little safe selling it to people.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
made all the mistake. Here's the other mistake that I made that nobody ever told me. Your pattern is the blueprint for your house, is literally an asset. Like when companies go out of business, you can sell your patterns. Okay. I didn't get copies of my patterns.
So where are they?
And
Where are they? Are they at the factories?
so, and my first pattern maker person that I was in business with, I'm not going to say anything about her. I'll just say it was her job to fill in those blanks for me, and she did not. So when she and I parted ways, I had the garments, but I didn't have the patterns. So today I say to people, once on that pattern, have the printed out pattern. We've all seen those hanging on the hanger and get the digital version.
Oh,
So today I have, and when you have the digital version, you can, once you make an agreement with that factory, whether the factory's in China, Portugal, Pakistan, Mexico, you can email your pattern to that place and have them make your clothes,
I love
right?
it.
Especially if your fabric is something like, oh, I use 16 mummy silk charmeuse, then if it's something that's standard there, this Pantone color, you can even have them source the fabric locally. You don't have to supply them the fabric,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
right?
I mean, yes, 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 yes. I mean, everything you're saying is like there's so much here. And I think it's giving, I mean, it's getting me excited about like making my own stuff because that's like what I come from. I come from design and manufacturing. And, you know, to me, this process feels so easy. Like you're describing riding a bike to me, and I'm like, no, I know how to ride a bike, you know, like I'm good. There are differences, obviously, in working locally, whether, you know, I mostly worked with overseas manufacturers and we did some things locally, like in New York City, but because there are like great handbag sample makers in New York. Like
Come
there are
on.
places, New York and LA are
Yeah.
great places to make goods. It is a little trickier. It is a little harder to navigate, but I feel like for anyone that wants to get into manufacturing, you can do it here. I guess the question that I always think about is like, how much is this going to cost me? You know, like what's the real investment for one style, for 10 style? You know, like if I know, okay, an average style, if I buy 100 units, is going to cost me $5,000.
No,
Okay.
my first style that I did was a caftan, and that guy Fashion Frankie that I mentioned, I used him, and I think I did maybe 30 units or something, 30, 40 units, somewhere in there, and I spent under $1,000. So
Hey,
yeah,
great. We're
so
doing this.
here are the advantages that I have, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm in Los Angeles and I
of
got in
course.
my car and I physically went to the places and schlepped around,
Yes.
right? But so that
Yes.
might mean you get a little room on your credit card, you fly to LA and you do that. And unfortunately, none of these places are open on the weekend. This is a Monday through Friday thing,
Like 9 to
right?
5 too, 10 to
And nine
5.
to
I
five.
mean,
And
it's,
believe
yeah,
me, I'm saying
they're
9 to 5
gone
of
at
being
5.
generous because
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock, I see people start shutting down.
Yeah.
The garment district closes up really early. But yeah, it's not nearly as expensive as people think. And I could have cut costs. I could have gone online and I could have gone to Fiverr and got pre-existing patterns. Because I was making a caftan. I bet you somebody had that caftan pattern, or at
Yep.
least I could have bought the pattern and just had her make a change because
Yeah.
then the pattern would have cost, $40 instead of $100. I
Yep.
could have, I was making my samples in silk,
Yeah.
which dumb, but I could have found a polyester that was the same weight as the silk, and that would have, changed things for me. And
Reduced your
I had to
sample costs
pay,
is all though. But
right,
then
I
you
could
don't
have had to.
have photo ready samples. I mean, like,
Okay, so that's the other thing. As soon as I get that approved sample, and now we have two of them, right? So we've done two different sizes. I always give the factory one sample, the most perfect sample, so that literally sewers can walk up and they turn something in and out to see how it's done. And they do that all the time and they want it and they appreciate it. And then the other sample, I start shooting it with my photographer
there you go.
so that
There you
by
go.
the time I get the production, I have everything I need to put that garment on sale.
I mean, I'm just like ready to go. Let's just start making stuff. I have like piles of things that I want to recreate and make. And, you know, as my husband always says, like, not this week, like, not this week, you know? But I mean, that's the thing is I think that anyone can do this. I think that if you're smart, which I think the women we hang out with are smart, educated, savvy people who can speak up for themselves and have some confidence. I feel like that's kind of all it takes. And that's like reducing what it takes. But I think a lot of women hold themselves back from doing something because it feels expensive or they're going to, you know, you've made mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes when we start a business.
You
What
are
are the
going
mistakes
to make
you're
mistakes,
okay making? What's your
period.
threshold for mistakes? What's your threshold? Like to me, I mean, if I was listening, first of all, I want to name this like a masterclass or something or like some kind of training because we've gone through so much detail and I so appreciate you not gatekeeping the detail because you obviously didn't give everything away. But like, this is a lot for someone to listen to and be like, you know what? I'm going to get online. I'm going to start doing my research. I'm going to start calling some places. Maybe I'm going to send Tracy an email and thank her for like telling me all this cool stuff, you know, because I think there is a lot to be said for changing. Again, I think that manufacturing, if you want to get into manufacturing, it's because you know that we have problems in the boutique industry with sizing, with materials, with fabrication, with availability for things. And you want to create something that we haven't seen yet, or more of something we have seen that someone else hasn't run with. Like the amount of women who I work with who they'll be like, I'll be like, this was your best selling style last year. Like, what happened? Oh, the manufacturer stopped making it. You sold 100 of those. Like, let's go make it ourselves. Like, that's crazy, you
I
know?
know.
And so it's really, I think, such a wonderful resource that I think if and when the boutique owners or wholesalers or anyone who wants to do this wants to start doing it, I want to encourage you to do it. Like save a little pot of money on the side to like get one piece manufactured a month for 4 months, and you
Get
know what I mean? And then you launch in
one
6 months.
pattern made a
Like
month.
have a pattern made.
Yeah, just have the pattern made.
Yeah.
Get, like, and something easy, just like a shirt or whatever. Now, the other thing I want to tell people is if that seemed confusing to you, that's fine, because I gave you the most difficult rocky road to getting something made. So you
Yeah.
can do it the way I just outlined, or you can go to someone who's called Cut and Sew, like my friend Mustafa, and really you just walk into Mustafa's office with an idea and he sketches it for you. He sources the fabric, he has the pattern made, he makes the samples, he finds a factory well, actually, he's the factory, but you guys have already discussed the price point, so he knows the max he can charge you in units. That's Cut and Sew. They do everything. And a lot of people call themselves manufacturers and they're doing cut and sew, and that's fair too.
Interesting.
I didn't have
They
cut
would
and
be
sew
more of like
money.
a designer. Yeah, that's interesting though. Like I
Mm-hmm.
could send an email with hey, I want to make this to him. And he's like, okay, I'll figure it out for you. It's going to, again, cost you the consulting fee, and we're going to make
Yes.
it at our factory. So we make the money off of, each piece that we make. Like he's going to build that in. But I think for a lot of people, that's incredibly, like that's a luxury service right there that they'd be happy to pay for.
I've got a girlfriend named Lizeth. Her company is called LVELLE, new word VVEE. And she can do anything, but she specializes in technical patterns, sportswear kind of things. And you don't even have to know your fabric. She can tell you.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to know anything. You don't have to know timelines. You have to know what you want.
It's incredible. It's
And
incredible.
she's gonna do everything from rooter to tutor. And because she's taking a percentage of all of the process, getting started with her is not a lot of money. So when you meet with her, I don't think there's a fee to meet with her and discuss anything. I think once you're doing the pattern, maybe, and I hate quoting people's prices, but I would say like a pattern with her is probably $200. And then moving to the sample, depending on what it is, of course, is maybe $100. By the way, people who do samples, they try to keep the sample as inexpensive as possible. It's not perfect. It's enough for you to see it and you know it's stitching or whatever. Nobody's trying to make $1 million from you on samples. So if you have a simple dress that doesn't have a bunch of bells and whistles and somebody is charging you, $500 or $600 for that sample, go with God. They're cheating you. So, so maybe the sample is like $250, and then the factory, she's finding the factory. I think she probably has her fee built in, but she's not charging you like, oh, $1,000 because I found the factory. No, she'll find the
Right.
factory based on your price point, and she's responsible for being quality control with them. She's the person who's going to the factory and checking all of the garments and making sure that they're using your fabric and not somebody else's, and that everything is the way that it's supposed to be. That your label is stamped in rather than sewn in, or what all of those little things that we don't think about. But
I'm just, yeah, I'm ready.
getting
Let's
started with
go.
someone like her, it was very manageable. It was not, you could get a full look, or like you could do a full dress for well under $2,000. Well under, yeah, yeah,
There you
it
go.
was.
There you go. So someone that has $5,000 or $10,000 to spend to start a boutique, maybe instead of starting a boutique, they want to start their own product line and, have it go sell it through your online store. Basically do what Tracy did.
I would
Create your
say,
own
like, if you
product
had
and
3 garments, like if I had met you earlier and I said, okay, I'm gonna do 2 maxi dresses and a caftan, and then I'll buy like accessories from Alibaba, I could have started my boutique, like got the website, all of that, and manufactured those three garments for probably between $5,000 to $7,500. And I will tell you, my first fashion shoot, it was the fashion shoot and the website was $6,000. Okay.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. But
I didn't know you.
also, well, and here's the thing. You are a stickler for doing things the right way. And I think there is I think there's, I don't think anything's the wrong way, but I think there's like sort of the like really well paved road and then like the kind of rocky road. You choose your path. Like you want to pay for what you
Yes.
need, you pay for it.
Yes.
Like that's totally fine.
Yes.
If you want to stay in the hostel, like that's fine too. Use your iPhone for your photos. You know what I mean? Like that's totally
Right.
fine too.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, this is so interesting. This is just making me want to make my own clothes even more
You
because
should make your own clothes. Maybe bring a group of people to Los Angeles. You can do it. You can do it.
I know.
There's 19-year-old straight boys who get high all day that are making t-shirts and becoming millionaires. So you can't tell me you can't make your wedding dress, leggings, sweater, whatever it is you want to make.
Yes, yes, yes. If only we had the audacity of a stoned 19-year-old white boy. Like, what could we do? Truly.
They think the world is there. Black boys too, Latino. These young men, the great thing, we do socialize our young men to believe that they can do anything. I watch these videos. I'm telling you, these kids are like, I've got a great idea, dude. Like
Right.
Spicoli is like, I got a great idea, dude, for a blah, blah, blah. And they go to Fiverr, they get somebody to make the design, they find somebody who's selling blank t-shirts like Alpha Broder, and then they buy like a printing thing and they have it in the basement or the garage, and now they're saying that they've got a clothing line because they're printing t-shirts. And you know what? They do. God bless them, because those designs go off to make money and employ people. And as
Yes.
usual, women, we're looking up, what kind of insurance do I need? Do I need a different business license? Well, who's going to buy my little designs? Right? We are thinking about
Yes.
everything that us.
Yes. Well, I've been really inspired by Amy Poehler and her new podcast because she, on multiple episodes, has talked about how she's like, I'm doing about 25% of my, best right now. I'm at 25%. And this is really good still. She's like, women need to stop improving themselves. Like, let's let everyone catch up because, like, we're good. Like, we need to slow down a little. And I've really taken that to heart because I think like that is a lot of where the self-criticism comes from. Even with me, like sitting here being like, oh, I should do my own thing. And then it's like, no, I shouldn't. It's like, please, I have an entire crop of boutique owners to sell to in my email list. Like, wow, how could I not be more primed to start a wholesale company? Give me a break. You know what I mean? Like that's an obvious low-hanging fruit, right? So yeah.
A wrap
Okay.
dress. Like, come out with 5 staple items.
Yes.
Leg, two-piece legging set, a wrap dress.
Joggers.
But
Yeah, a
yeah,
pair of
you
joggers.
know
Oh,
what
I know
people
exactly what I would
buy.
do. I know exactly what I would do because it's literally what I wear. I would just make my uniform and then sell my uniform, and that's like not that I think my uniform's that interesting, but I would do it in an interesting way. I'm not going to make a
If it's
black.
what the American woman wears, who gives a toss?
I mean, that's it.
I
That's it.
look,
That's
I
it.
actually think, okay, so one of the ways that like Fashion Go, people buy from Fashion Go, and then they can't even use the images from Fashion Go because they're so bad and it looks
Yeah.
like it comes from fast fashion. But
Yeah.
what I love as a wholesaler is our pictures, our images are great.
They
And
are.
depending on when you get us, I'm willing to do custom things. Like, people will say like, oh, my customers really want to blah, blah. Great. We have a photo shoot scheduled for Friday. I'll incorporate some of your ideas and I'll send you those images. So you don't, when you buy from us, you don't even have to schedule the shoot. I'm sending you, and I continue to send you images,
That's
fresh
amazing.
images of the garments that you've bought.
That's amazing. I mean, I feel like for you, there's so much more to do. like in the best way of it. Like, you know what I mean? We've talked about this. Like, I just, you know, plus size women are not going away. They're always going to need things to wear. And, you know, I think that the way you do things, like I see a lot of plus size women trying to do like what Eloquii is doing. And like you said, make the suit, make the this, make the really like formal stuff. And honest to God, I think plus size women want fun shit. Like, and I think that's why your brand works. I think that's why Amore 781 really works because she's very fashion oriented. Like, I think there's some brands that are doing plus size and it's just like, oh, thank God. Like, it's not a funeral dress, you know, like I'm good, you know? So I think that if someone is listening, they have a unique point of view, they have a community that's underserved or not being served in a way that they feel like they could do better. I mean, a couple $1,000, let's say $10,000, you know, the very most you could maybe spend to get started. Like that's a really low price to enter
to start
your own brand.
2 businesses. You could have your website and your clothing line for $10,000.
Well, and here's the thing. Not only are you selling direct to consumer on your website, but maybe you also jump on like one of my favorite wholesale websites like Fair and you start selling through Fair.
I was going to say Fair. Yes.
Yeah. Like Fair is, we love Fair. I use my affiliate link in the show notes, you know, like I love Fair. It's just so beautiful and really well designed. And I think there's also just a vibe of handmade there still, small people, like it still feels a little bit indie, like you're going to get things that you can't find anywhere else. So, okay, we've been on the phone for like 2 hours. I love you so much, Tracy. You're just, I mean, I think we're going to have to break this up into like 8 different episodes to like chunk things together, which is so incredible because you have so much to share. And I think like, even for you, like you don't really give yourself enough credit of like how much you have learned and grown and how much you know. And like, it's just really, it's fun to talk to someone who has like put in the work to learn this stuff and like is boots on the ground, is like walking into rag finders, making deals. And like, that's what it takes though. I think like that's an entrepreneur. That's the fashion business. I think the fashion business is changing to more like micro brands and women designers and, you know, USA made or wherever, you know, wherever is important to you to make it. Like we're seeing a lot of African designers come to the US with beautiful materials and designs, like, you know, so I think there's just room for so much. And you've just opened up a really big like garage door for us to like step through and like see what's in this big garage to explore, because I think the idea of a boutique is always changing and always pivoting. And I think like right now we're just in that moment where people want sustainability. They want to know who they're buying from. They want to know where they're buying from. They, you know, do 150 million people shop, like have Shein downloaded on their phones? Sure. But like, I also think that other 150 million people like are ripe for what you have to offer, you know? And like you said, we just need the audacity of a confident teenager and confident 20-year-olds running on pure hormones and belief in themselves. Like, I think that's what it is. And you've really opened that up. So we'll put all your info in the show notes, but like, where do you enjoy connecting with people if they did want to reach out? And like, I'm going to just say, like, please do not email Tracy and say, I need everything you did. Like, let's also give people their space. But like, if you want to send Tracy a hi and hello and a thank you, like, how are we getting in touch with you?
They can always reach me through IG. I know people love IG, and IG, TikTok, all under Sante Grace, or they can email me, tracy@santegrace.com.
Whoa. That was one of the most tactically rich episodes we have ever aired. And I really hope you took a ton of notes. Tracy is not just generous, but she is detailed, real, and absolutely brilliant. Truly, if you have ever dreamed of having your own fashion brand without flying to China or having to invest tons of money, I want you to save this episode, bookmark it, earmark it, and come back to it. Tracy in this episode proves to all of us that it really doesn't take much than some ideas, determination, and the willingness to keep going. I think that's the theme this year for me, is let's keep going. Don't let things stop us. I mean, by the end of that episode recording, I was ready to fly to LA and stay in Tracy's guest room and get going with my own line. So if you have been motivated in the ways I have, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you're excited. Let me know what you thought. And please drop a line in Tracy's Instagram as well, at Sante Grace. I'm sure she would love to hear from you, even if it's just a very quick like. Thanks so much for that episode. It was insane. I really appreciate you. We didn't expect it to like turn out so wonderful. We knew we wanted to talk about manufacturing in LA, but I am just overjoyed and like so proud of what we've just published for you. And my hope is that you'll be able to take this and whether it's today or in 10 years, have the courage, the audacity, and the big dreams to go and make your own items. All right. Here's to making lots of friends and making lots of money. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.